Hi everyone, it's Annemiek from the Academy for Soul-Based Coaching, and I'm here with Jenny Schoenmann. Welcome, Jenny.
Hello.
And today we would love to talk with you about how change happens when you work in the soul-based coaching way, because it is not normal traditional coaching what we're doing, and there's a big reason for it, and one of the reasons is that it is really powerful and effective to work this way. So, part of what happens in a coaching session is that we help people connect with their own metaphors, right, Jenny? And people tend to think about metaphors as if they're like these literary embellishments that we learn about in school. But actually, what metaphors are, they are our like a primary operating system. It's like the lens through which we learn about the world from a very young age on. In a way, metaphors that kind of seep out through our words, they show us how what we believe in, how the structure of our experience is. Now, the really interesting thing is then when we start to work with that the metaphors tend to start to change. And then when they change, really interesting things happen, right, Jenny? So this is what we wanted to kind of touch onto, and just offering you this as a little bit of a framework so that you can listen through that to the conversation. Would you like to share with us what your experience has been with the metaphors, Jenny?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Um, so, being a freelancer since many years, since over 15 years, I always was struggling with setting my boundaries and sharing my prices and what I need and hours and all those things. So there was always super stressful for me. The work, when I was there, all good, beautiful, but before or afterwards, wrapping that up, horrible. And I have received already years ago coachings about that, and recently, 2 years ago, and they were always helpful. And I always felt like, okay, mostly I got this coaching just before I had to make an important offer for me. So then I was, okay, I can do it, and I did it. But then a few weeks later, or a few days later, I completely lost it again and tapped back into my old habits. And then doing the soul-based coaching, at one point I also tapped into this, into that I would like to change my relationship to money, how to set my boundaries, to let my clients know what I need, and what I'm happy to give, and how we exchanged this, and also energy wise. And then, so having receiving this coaching session, I tapped into this metaphor land, and I found a really beautiful landscape for me that worked really, really well. I felt comfortable. Most important, I felt aligned with myself. I felt true. I was happy in that. And then I got after session, and a couple of days later, I received a request for a job. And for a moment, I tapped back into this, oh no, I can't do that. Or I struggled with sharing my pricing and all that stuff. It all came back, and it took a moment, and I tapped back into this metaphor land, what I have discovered. And we also do sometimes drawings after a session, and I have one, and I have my drawing with me, and I wrote everything down. And I also love to do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And I did, and I sent it. And just a few hours later, I got a feedback. And they didn't agree with all I have said, with my timings and everything I needed for that job. And they thanked me for letting them know, but it was not possible for them to agree that way. And it felt good. It felt really good. And I have been maybe a few years before, a month before, I would have been struggling. I would have sent maybe another email, oh, maybe, and but I knew, no, this is not for me. This job is not meant for me. It's not in alignment with myself. And I had this beautiful metaphor where I pick, like picking apples, picking jobs, and there are apples, they are ripe, and they just come to me. And there's money also just comes to me, and there are apples and money, they are not meant to be collected from me, from others maybe, but not from me. And this one was one of this apple that was not from me. And in my metaphor, I keep moving because there are many more. And it was a relief, and it was beautiful. And I remember it happened on a Saturday, and usually what has destroyed my whole weekend, and it did not at all. I was very grateful for that. Yeah.
Gorgeous, gorgeous. And I can see that the way that the impact it has on you and the way that you're describing it now. And if you're kind of comparing the work that you've done now to the work that you've done previously around that topic with other types of coaching, what would you say is the biggest difference for you?
Mm-hmm. I own it. That's the biggest difference. I own it. It's mine. It can be happen in 10 years, and maybe the metaphor change. It can always change. But it's mine. I own it, and no one can take it away from me. And I also don't forget my 10 steps. And how many times do we have this, like, we know how worth we are, and someone tells us you are worth that amount of money, but it's someone tells me that, and I can say yeah, you're right, but I don't feel like I own it. It doesn't come from within me, and that's the difference.
Beautiful. And I think this is a really beautiful illustration about how this work goes really deeply and really helps us in a kind of an easeful way. The metaphors are usually quite fun to work with, but they really help us to to repattern, to rewrite those old ways of being, and just feel this new resource of, right, yeah, this is how I do it. This is how I want to do it, and this is how I'm doing it. And then there is no question anymore, right, about how you're going to execute those steps, or what you're actually going to do, because you feel it's just really clear in that stage when that metaphor is in place, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's also interesting that in my experience with this topic, there was not this self-doubt, and all the things I had before, they didn't have their place there anymore. It was in a positive way. So I really changed my whole thinking, or my whole feeling about this topic.
Yeah, gorgeous. And I know anybody, anybody who has worked as self-employed or freelancer, this whole thing about negotiating your rates all the time and your hours all the time, it can be quite stressful. And really being able to stand in your worth with that, without it being a struggle in any way, that is an incredible, beautiful resource to have, and skill sets to have as well.
Yeah, because this struggle, and I experienced this more with women having this struggle, working a lot with women, and this struggle is really, it's in our way. It's just in our way. It should be there, because we have so much, whatever we want to share. There should be our energy flowing towards or through or in, and not in this, no struggle about that. So it's a relief.
Yeah. And how has that impacted how you like to work with people? Just having had these experiences around the metaphors, and how soul-based coaching helped you personally to make those changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this going really deep into yourself and listening what are your values, what you need, what are your boundaries. This is so empowering, and especially, as said, for women, that we can tap more easily into our full strength and really start doing what we do, and doing without feeling guilty, or we can live to our purpose and feel more clarity in what we're doing, without having all this stuff around us, or that's in front of us. So this is I think this is very meaningful in this work, because this is just a side thing. And then if you have your nice landscape that works for you well, it is also like that. Oh yeah, I pick it. or I don't, but I go further because there's way more to come from me.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for sharing this. I think it's a great example of how soul-based coaching works in action. Um, yeah, thank you for allowing us this little peek into your life and into your learning process. And if people would like to find you and work with you, because Jenny is one of our coaches and she's really great at what she does, where can they find you?
I hope my webpage is ready soon. Maybe it already is. The name is Soul Flow and Glow, and also under this name you find me on Facebook and on Instagram. And there's lots to share. Yeah, lots to share.
Wonderful. Yeah, highly recommend that you get in touch with Jenny and find out more about what she offers. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching, and thank you, Jenny. And yeah, see you all soon for another talk about all things soul-based coaching and how you can let them help people. Right. Thank you all. Bye.